it felt, not to get all fast and free, but like it felt like family. And I look outside and the rain is sideways. There is a tornado off in the distance. I worked so hard that I put myself in the hospital. I remember just there, and I had that axe, and I was just like, if I stop, I'm only gonna think about it. And I remember like back to that night where I couldn't get a hold of everyone. That was the most scared I have ever been in my entire life.
What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Jordan Whitrock Show. I'm your host, Jordan Whitrock, and today we have a pretty cool guest, someone who I've been excited to get on. It was just a matter of when we could line it up, we met at a party and just got talking about film, which I guess makes sense since we're both at a film school right now. And just working on projects that he's worked on, his mentality when working on film, creating film, directing, writing, all that kind of stuff. And I think for me, it was just like, oh, it's really powerful. Like, that's not something that I just want to hear. I want to be able to have him share that with everyone else. So without further ado, let's welcome to the show, Brody Van Arnam. Let's go.
What's up?
Bro, I'm so glad that we were able to make this happen.
I know. I've been looking forward to this.
I have too. And it was just a matter
forever.
Like, as soon as you said that first night, you were like,
yeah.
Hey, I mean, let me know when I'm beyond. I'm like, dude, actually.
I'm so excited.
Okay.
I can't wait.
So we met at a different Thesis project.
Yeah, it was like a fundraiser.
Yeah, fundraiser for them. And we both know Eric, who has an episode previously on. And so I think it was like a good time to chat. I think like as an actor, you talk to a lot of actors, which is like good and helpful, and you get to learn from what they're doing and vice versa. Yeah. But there is something to be able to talk to a director or a writer and be like, okay, what are you looking at? Or like when you look at a film, I look at my character, maybe the characters that I would influence in throughout the project. You look at the whole process because you have to. Yeah. And so for me, that's what I really want to talk about today is like, not only what is your process, but how do you look at a film kind of set up? But before we get into that, I'd love to like have the audience get to know you a little bit.
Yeah,
in the sense
for sure.
Of like who you are, why did you choose film and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. So I'm Brody. I'm a senior at SCAD. Film, I don't know. I got to the point in like my high school career where it was like, all right, it's time to do something. Yep. Graduation's coming up. What do you do? And I had no idea. And the thought of sitting behind a desk for a 9 to 5, for 40 years, 60 years, and then like if I'm lucky, I get to die. That was just incredibly unappealing. That was so unappealing to me. Yeah. And so I had looked back at my life of all the stuff that I had done growing up, what had stuck out to me, and film has always been that thing. Storytelling has always been that one thing that has stuck with me through every single, kind of part of my life. Gotcha. I had one of those little flip cameras when I was like 7 years old, like double A batteries. Okay. Like when was the last time you saw a camera that took AA batteries? It was like little 720p camera. Okay. Yep. And I would just record everything. I would record everything. It would, thankfully, Mom backed it all up, so I still have it.
That's sick because that's not common.
No, it's not at all. And I think about that. Like I think about, my mom and like when she was growing up and my dad when he was growing up, where it's like, they have like 2 pictures. Yeah. It's like, this is my best friend from, but it's like everything is documented.
What's interesting is like growing up in my house, especially when we were younger, everything was filmed. Yeah. And I like as you look at like usually kind of like the structure of your house is based off your parents and what they learned from their parents. And like my dad was the youngest of 5 and he was baby. Like there was a big age gap between him and the rest of his siblings. And so his parents would film all the time, the kids and stuff like that. But like the only videos he has is like him being like 2 years old. Yeah. And then they stopped filming everything. Oh no. And so for him, I think it was that much of like, I'm not going to let that happen to like the youngest. Right. And so there's like, we filmed everything up until the point where you're kind of like, all right, everyone's got their own phone. You know, which is just interesting. You saying like how that was kind of an influence in that.
I don't know where this footage is, but I remember that I had a camera that it wasn't an SD card. It was a small DVD. And it would record it would burn it right. I don't even know.
It's not a floppy disk.
It's not a floppy disk. It's a DVD, but it's just like a tiny, I have no idea what it's called. And I can't find a reader for it. And it was what I shot like my first movie on. I need to find a reader for it because I have those two like the DVDs.
You
but
don't
I
think
just
like SCAD or something would have something like that?
I'm sure
Probably
someone
not,
would
right?
have.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if I don't know if that needs to go public, but
We actually own all that footage now. So
no, but yeah, it was just like a camcorder that would
Yep.
have, and I would go to, I'd beg mom to go to Target, and I was like, please, let's get, just like keep loading these because probably record for 10 minutes before it was full, and I just had DVD after DVD after DVD of just whatever I was, and it would be. I look back at some of that stuff, and I'm just like, wow, like what am I doing? But that's. To get back to the point we're talking about, like that's really where it all started. When I was young, I was just handed a camera and was just like, go make something. Yeah. I was a very, my parents were very strict in the like electronics department growing up. I had an hour of TV or video games Friday, Saturday, and Sunday growing up. And that was it. Okay. And so when I wasn't doing that, it's go outside, go make something, go be creative, go do something, which, to a lot of kids now where it's like, did you watch, SpongeBob growing up? All these shows like, no, I didn't.
Same, literally same. I'm like, I watched the Waltons because that was the only thing that was allowed.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is. Like
some like show that was made in like the 60s. Yeah, what I'm saying?
So, I can't relate to, like the kid shows, but, I was able to go outside, be creative, get dirty in a sense.
Could I hit a rock with a stick?
No, yeah. So I'm from Asheville, North Carolina, and like we grew up in the mountains originally. So I was born in Los Angeles. We lived there for 2 years, and then we moved to Black Mountain, North Carolina, which is 30 minutes outside of Asheville. Okay. And then a couple years later, we had the house like fell apart. Like the house just fell apart. So then we moved to Asheville. And we lived on, probably 2 acres of woods, just sick. Straight land. Yep. So it was just like, go outside, go, do whatever you want to do outside.
Do you have siblings or was it just you?
I do, yeah. Okay. So I have a younger sister. She's 20. She goes to Chapel Hill. She wants to be a lawyer.
Oh, okay.
Which is very different.
Yep.
It's hard to, sometimes it's really hard to believe that like we're siblings. We're related because she's so smart. Yeah. She's so smart. And I'm smart in other ways.
In your own way. Yeah, no, I literally feel that too.
But not in she has like, I think she graduated high school with like a 4.8 GPA. It's just, she's incredibly smart. She wants to be a lawyer. She's at Chapel Hill. Okay. Really hard school. Yep. But she's doing it. She's making it work. But yeah, she did gymnastics for a really long time. Oh. That was like a big thing for her that like taught her like the discipline and all the stuff like that. But yeah, it was very opposite, her and my
got you.
Like I don't want to say upbringing, but just like the way that we kind of walked through the world in the way that, what she was doing, what I was doing was incredibly different. Yeah. And it is to this day, but it's nice because we can, pick each other's brain about how's this going? How's this going? This, that, the other thing. Yeah.
Did you find that you guys collided often because of that or no? Because you were so different, it was almost worked in a way.
So we never really got into any kind of arguments or collisions in that way. We lived such different lives that it was often, I don't know, difficult to relate at times, my parents split up when I was 13 or 14. Gotcha. And my sister was so into gymnastics that my dad and my sister moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, which is like 2 hours from Asheville. Yep. So, for a lot of my high school time, I didn't even see her. Wow. When she was younger, this was around the time, I'm trying to think, I think it was a freshman in high school when she was, 7th grade, something like that. So a lot of that time we didn't really spend together. And then, I go off to college, she goes off to college. So we never, when we were younger, she's in all my movies, all those videos, all that stuff she's in. So like we grew up together, but then kind of just, as it does, life takes you in different, different lanes.
That's interesting. Well, cause like So you're 2 years apart kind of vibe?
Yeah.
Yeah. So all my siblings were all 2 years apart as well.
Yeah.
And so there is that not uniqueness, but niceness of like being close enough in age that you can relate.
Yeah.
But like you said, because I'm one of 5 and I'm right in the middle. So it's like there are times, or there have been times where, certain siblings just feel distance, right? Because they're doing their own thing. I'm doing my own thing.
Yeah.
And I like that's a challenge in itself, because those are the people that you're
must
supposed
be
to...
incredible. Because it's like a 10-year.
Yeah,
from youngest to
10
oldest?
or 8, however that number's out. Yeah, no,
Wow.
I was just doing it the other day. But I don't know. I feel like if I have kids, or hopefully I have kids, like I think that's what I would do too. Like just because I've seen other families that there are a big age gap, and I'm like, I just don't see how that really benefits the kids themselves and having a relationship. If I can afford that kind of lifestyle.
This economy.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so you're making films when you're younger.
Yeah.
And is that something where your little sister's in it, but then also your friends, or is it big cast, little cast? Like, what are we filming?
So yeah, I have 2 really good friends from back in the day, Jordan and Emil, and we would make just like little 10-minute whatever movies just on the iPod, and it was all like, the Superpower FX and like action movie. There's great app action. I don't know if it's still up or what, but it made my career. It's like, and we would just come up with just random, superhero or like spy movies or just like whatever. And it was, in our heads it was cinema.
Yeah.
In our heads it was great. And then we would watch it, or I'd show it to someone. They would just be like, "What?" Because like, I was always the evil henchman, and we always the big bad always had like evil henchman clones, because we had 3 people. So it's just like it was Jordan or Emil who was always like the superhero, and anytime like they'd take out a henchman, I would just pop back up because it's a clone, because we didn't have anybody. So they're really fun, especially now. To go back and look at just like the beginnings. And that's the thing about the digital age, is that like it's all still here.
Yeah.
Like all those videos, all those films that I, made growing up and kind of like found like the love for storytelling in, is I can still go watch it.
Yeah.
Which is, I like that. Like I'm really grateful to be able to like have all these pictures and videos.
Nostalgia.
Exactly. Yes. Very pro nostalgia. So that's a really good feed for that.
Well, okay. What's interesting is like, I think we're in an age where we benefit from having the ability to keep and record as much as we want for the most part, Yeah. But what's interesting is when you look at the industry, it's very so much like if no service is buying it,
yes,
you have no access to it.
Yes.
Because they don't really do DVDs anymore.
Right.
Like they still do DVDs, but not at the amount, like that's not the common way to watch it.
Yeah.
So there's not really a place unless you want to buy it for whatever on Amazon, and that's only assuming Amazon's going to stay in business for so long. It's like you never own a copy of whatever your favorite movie is, like you once used to. Do you see something like that in the industry being a positive thing because it's a wider access to a lot more media, even if it means you might not be able to get access to some of your favorite things?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's definitely pros and cons, in any of these situations. Like I remember when I was younger and like Redbox was a thing. Like I remember Blockbuster, I remember Redbox, and it turned something that now seems just to be like a split-second decision into like an evening. It's like I remember being little, back living out in Fairview in North Carolina. There was a Redbox outside our Ingalls, our local grocery store. And, it would be a plan. We're like, all right, Mom and I are going to go to Redbox. We're going to go get a DVD to watch. Yep. Then we're going to go to the grocery store and like get snacks and then it became like a night. And then, I remember Netflix started shipping out DVDs, and then that kind of got rid of Redbox.
Did you use Netflix when that had?
We never did.
It was always Redbox, and and then we had Family Video was what our video store was. Yeah. And then when that all went out, then it was kind of like, well, are we gonna like? Because my parents were very much like, we're not gonna get Amazon Prime Video and all that kind of stuff or Netflix, and so it's like, well, shit, now we can't watch anything.
Yeah, no, 100%. Well, and that's kind of like the big debate with like the movie theaters today now, where it's like, it's the experience of the film. You can watch a film on your iPhone or your tablet or whatever, but it's like the experience of going to a theater and seeing it on the screen it was designed for is an experience where I feel like, with the DVDs, with, stuff like that, with VHS, stuff like that, this older kind of technology, it turns just like a quick search. And then, you're lying in the dark by yourself, computer on your chest, watching something to like it's like, I'm going to go get snacks. I'm going to go, prepare the living room. We're going to have a movie night.
Yep.
So, and not to say that streaming can't be that still. It just, to do that, you had to work more. You had to plan it out a little bit more. You had to think about like, where, and if the red box didn't have what you didn't want to watch, then you're going to have to pick something else or you're not going to watch anything. So, yeah, I mean, I think that there's pros and cons to it because streaming is so easy. It's so easy and it's everything. The thing that's frustrating about it is that, you have, if it's like a series, you got the first movie on this streaming platform, then the other one on this one. So then, you're paying, $100 a month for 7 different streaming services. And it's like, all right, well, welcome back cable.
It's kind of true. Yeah. I don't know. That's like when I think back to us being kids, it was because there's 5 of us. So picking a movie that we all wanted to watch was like impossible. It was a nightmare. So we had like the VHSs downstairs and be like, okay, everyone go pick 2 movies. Yeah. And then we'll put them in the middle. So there was 10 movies and it's like, okay, these are the possible chances. Now everyone put your hand, or you get 2 choices of movies. And you put your hand on them, but you can't pick yours, right? And so then slowly you just start getting rid of films that like
that's smart.
Had less. Yeah. And then of course you get to the last 2, and then like half the group's like, I'm not watching that. It's like, well, we just did this for the reason, but like I what's interesting is like growing up with a big family, like we didn't go to the movies often, like you said. So it was like it was an experience to go. I don't know. I think it's hard to go to a movie theater for me now because the experience itself is so expensive. It's not necessarily a ticket. Yeah. Like you could maybe back in the day go and get, your ticket might cost $5 or whatever it was. Yeah. But the popcorn only cost like $1.50 or something like that. Like whatever that equivalent is. And it's like today it's like, well, at least where we are in Wisconsin, it's like maybe $16, $17 for a ticket. And then the popcorn is also $17. And you're like, okay, what are we doing here?
100%. Yeah, no, it is expensive to go see a movie. I saw Project Hail Mary in IMAX.
Oh, yeah. Was that good?
Super cool to see in IMAX. Yeah. But, it was a $30 ticket and I got a popcorn that was like $12, and then if I want a water, it's another $8. So I'm walking out of the movie theater spending $50.
Yeah, I know. I love movies too. Like I love going to the movie theater. I love the experience. Yeah. Question for you.
Yeah.
If you had to pick between popcorn or like a soda or a drink, which one are you picking? And you can't get any, like, no cheating. You can't get water.
No cheating.
Anything.
Okay.
Like it's one or the other.
Okay. Oh man, I'm gonna say water. I'm gonna come back to that though.
Really?
Explain it. Yes, because I'm a crazy hydrator.
Okay.
I like because I get headaches all the time, and it's always because I am dehydrated. It's the whole thing. But popcorn at the movies it's iconic. But if I have popcorn that's too salty and dries me up, I would rather like miss out on really nice movie theater popcorn if it's gonna make me dehydrated.
Interesting.
So and like I did that for Project Hail Mary. I was like, I'm gonna get popcorn this time. I'm gonna do it. And I was, it was a 2.5 hour movie. And by like, hour 45, I'm like, wow, there's a lot of salt.
Salty.
There's a lot of salt in that popcorn.
We also have Mike in studio. Let's go, Mike. Mike, if you were given the option,
shout out Mike.
If you were given the option, are you taking popcorn or like a soda, water, icy, freezy, or something like that?
My personal opinion, the perfect movie theater snack, because also I love going to movie theater for the exact same reasons.
Yep.
It's all about the experience. I love getting a popcorn in a blue icy
But you can wait. But you have to choose one of them. You can't have it.
I
Which one are you
know.
going
I'm
with?
saying though. I think those two are the perfect or the ultimate movie theater snack. I've been getting the same thing literally since I was like 9 years old.
Bro, be walking out with a blue tongue every time.
But
Ices are good.
I think Brody
Ices
makes
are
a
good.
very good point because some popcorn is just be super super salty
Okay.
and
It's good. Not to say it doesn't taste good.
Yeah.
I think I'm kind of with him on that. I might choose a water just because like I'm not much into like sugary stuff anymore.
Fair enough.
It's rare that I have like super sugary things, or I try to lower it down. So
What's funny is I don't know what film it was. I went to last one I remember was I did a double feature. Oh, what was it? Five Nights at Freddy 2 maybe, and then it was the musical that came out.
Wicked.
No, it's like what they did with Hamilton where they like recorded the stage.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I can't remember what it was. Anyway, it had Jonathan Groff in it, but
West Side Story.
Nope.
Nope.
Anyway, but but I had an icy.
Yeah.
And I'm a refill. Like
Okay, yeah.
I have to get my refills.
Yeah.
And I had
Well, you're paying for
I
it.
had so many ices. I think that was
Yeah.
the first time I ever was sick because I just had too much. And I was like, that never happens to me. But I think for me, I might just have to be 7-Up. Because when we were younger,
Interesting.
my brother would react to red dye and he'd get kind of crazy.
Yeah, what is that? What is it? That 42?
Yeah, whatever
Red
that. Yeah,
42
and
or
so
whatever?
if we went to the movie theater, we're not getting Pepsi or Coke because if Isaac drinks it, he's just gonna jack him up for where he was at. Doesn't do it anymore, so that's good.
Yeah.
But so we'd always get
bossed
7-Up. So it's funny because I'll go to the theater and I'll just crave 7-Up now,
Interesting.
But I love icy, so I
Yeah.
probably if I had the option to pick, I'd probably go still icy. But for the longest time, I'd just go there and get a 7-Up. I wouldn't even need popcorn. I just wanted to sip on something,
I remember
American way.
I in middle school and high school I would go to the skate park all the time, and it was just a hot concrete park.
Yep.
And there was a gas station right down the road, and there was one time where I was like, I'm getting a gas station icy. Oh my god, it actually was a life-changing, because it every time you're you've worked really hard, or anytime you do yard
sweat,
work or whatever, and you're like, oh my god, everything tastes 10 times better.
Yep,
10 times
facts.
better.
Yep.
10 times better.
Okay, so you're making all those short films, and that's middle school, I'm assuming, as well as elementary. And you get to high school, you decide okay, well, I don't want to do 9 to 5. I'm not sitting at a desk. And so, what was that decision in you choosing not only a film school but SCAD?
Well, so I had toured a bunch. I didn't tour a bunch. I toured a couple colleges. Yep. I went to Wesleyan out in Connecticut.
Okay.
It was a beautiful campus. Didn't get in, by the way,
Gotcha.
before I.
Okay. Yeah.
But I was there, and I just didn't love it. And then I came here to Savannah and just fell in love. That's how they get you, by the way. If you're looking at this,
what time did you come and visit? Do you remember?
Summer.
Okay, I visited March, that first 2 weeks. That's the most beautiful of Savannah. And so that definitely got me in the sense of wow, this is pretty cool. Yeah,
the city sold me.
Yep.
And then we went on the tour, and I toured. I remember looking at the film. Oh my gosh, my photo friends are gonna kill me. The the film development rooms, the red rooms,
yeah.
And just walking around and hearing everyone kind of talk about it and how it was, this up and coming school, and very, I was just like, man, Savannah's beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm just so in love with the city. I love that it's, there's not a campus, that the whole thing is very, and just this is the first, I've been to Jamestown, but this is the historic place, down by the river. Down by the river, I think, is what did it. The Spanish moss, the cobblestone down by the river. I think that's what. Because it was just so.
You're just picturing all the films you could film.
Yeah, literally. Because I was at that point where I was like, I got to get good at this.
Yep.
If I'm gonna do something with this, I got to get good at this.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, it was it was such a change, and it also like reminded me of home in a way. Like Asheville and Savannah are very similar in its kind of like spunk, if you will.
Yep.
So I felt, definitely away from home, but still like at home in a sense.
Yeah.
And that made that decision, easier. And still like, Connecticut is a 12-hour drive from home too.
Okay. And that's
so
why I was curious on how the distance was. But
Connecticut is 12, Asheville's like 5.
Okay.
So, it's far enough away where, mom can't just show up.
We love you, Mom.
Love, of course, love you. We'll get to the mom in a bit, but it was far enough, and for her too.
Yeah,
because she would do that, and she would be like, "Oh, I can't let you know."
Yep.
But yeah, it was far enough away, but it didn't feel like I was across the planet, and that was really comforting, starting like the college career out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like for me, I didn't really tour for my undergrad. Didn't tour much. It was just like, oh, this school is closest for me. I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Graduating undergrad, I was like, okay, I think I want to do acting, or at least I want to try it. Make sure, like, I can know then for sure, like, yeah, that was for me or that wasn't. And so then I found my way to SCAD here. But interesting, you're saying that the school was up and coming, because I think when I came, it kind of was like getting there. If that makes sense. So. Have you seen a lot of change within the departments or whatnot over your last 3.5 years or 3 2/3 years?
I think just the biggest change that I've seen is the size and then the like I guess like global representation that SCAD has been given. I don't even want to say given, earned.
Yeah, earned for sure.
When I applied back in 2021, I think, to come here, the application acceptance rate was 97%.
Yeah.
Which is,
yeah.
who are they not letting in here?
Well, they got a lot of kids. Your parents got a lot of money they need.
A lot of kids, a lot of money they need. The whole thing. So it was a 97% acceptance rate, and that was because that SCAD was trying to get everyone. They were growing, they were expanding, they were wanting to. SCAD Atlanta is not super old.
Gotcha.
That's a newer. That's
newer.
I don't know the specifics on that, but I know that it's much newer than Savannah. So they're expanding. My freshman year, they let in double the normal amount of students because the freshman dropout rate is 67%. So SCAD wanted to kind of play that in their favor, so that at the end of the day, when 67% of the kids leave, they still have the money that they would want to make from tuition, so that they can expand, because the backlot didn't exist before I was here. It was
was it an idea, or
it was more than an idea. They had SketchUps, but it was nothing that I could go walk on now. And that's just kind of thing, like, it just keeps going. Like, the film studios are relatively new. The backlot is super new. They're not done with it yet.
Nope.
But it's just now kind of become this, global power of creativity for students, for schools. It's like an ad. I'm not getting paid for this. But it's become this really kind of big, powerhouse for creativity. And so it's honestly exponentially growing. I mean, you see all the student housings that are going up. I'm thinking, how the hell are they gonna get the professors to put all these kids in these classes?
Yeah.
But not my department. So
not my circus, not my monkey.
Exactly.
Yep.
But yeah, and it's just like, it has grown and grown and grown and grown. And it's on, I forget what it was, but it was some list that I saw, and it was like SCAD is one of the top art and design schools in the world, which is really nice to be like, hey, here's my degree from this
like, seriously,
renowned
that
school.
was in one of my like looking at, yes, money was important, but also it was like, hey, on my resume, I don't have a name. That was my thing. It's like, I don't have a last name. I don't know someone who has a last name. I didn't go to somewhere with the last name. I didn't
Yeah.
work with someone with the last name. So it's like, I need the last name, and the last name was SCAD. And I was
Yeah.
like, that's going to have to fit. Like,
Yeah.
that fits the bill that way, you
No,
know?
and I mean, I got so lucky. I got so lucky for my grandparents' pension. My grandparents were teachers.
Yep.
And, they really blessed me with the ability to
Nice.
go here.
Wow.
So, I'm super lucky in the fact that I'm not leaving in debt.
Yeah.
Which is a really, really big thing that would be hanging over my head.
Yeah.
Because if I was gonna leave college in debt, I wouldn't have gone.
Interesting.
I wouldn't have gone. I would have been changing oil or working on working on cars or something like that forever. And I'm in that 9 to 5. So, the film stuff that I really love, is what I've worked for, and I've worked really hard. But truthfully, it's like I got to be so grateful for my grandparents giving me this opportunity to do something that's not sit at a desk for 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Which is, has made all the difference.
I think, like, because I don't know, like, that's something I can feel guilt of, like, oh, like, I have this good, or I had this good, or I had this good, and then, like, but sometimes, like, that's your thing, like, that's your getting ahead in life in a way, and, like, are you going to use it? Do you recognize it? Because a lot of people, I think, like, you recognize it, which is, like, awesome.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't recognize it. They just, like, assume that that's a given.
Yeah.
And it's like,
for
no,
sure.
it's not. Like, a lot of people do have to work for this, know?
Yeah.
But I think, like, that's the one thing that's, like, fascinating is, like just, like, you're human. And I think as people, like, can hear you and listen to you talk, it's just like, oh, like, yeah, this would be a guy I'd want to work with,
Yeah.
in the industry or whatever that is. Hire me, please. No.
Yeah, please.
But I think, like, because I think so, or let's not, we'll go. So what was the first project you did here that you were like, yeah, like we killed it, like, what I'm saying? Because I think obviously you have like little school projects that you do for class or whatever. Like, hey, if I want a 5-minute something or whatever, you got to make that for the. But like, what was the first thing, whether it was independent or class, that you were like, yeah, that was good.
I think the first thing I ever did at SCAD is I acted in my roommate's Film 100 project.
Okay.
Which we took a look at that and was like, let's keep this guy behind the camera. And then I went on to do, like, I acted in like 3 or 4 other projects. Okay. And they were, I was just like, I didn't know anything. Yeah. I know anything. I think the first thing that I did that I was like, okay, I took design 4D space and time my freshman year, which is like a senior class. So I was like, everyone was like, how did you get into this class? I was like, I have no idea. But we would get these like prompts where it was like, I'm trying to remember what this one is. Oh, it was wearable art. So it was like something in your major, create something that is a wearable piece of art and present it to the class. Whether you bring it to class and present it, you make a video, you do like a soundscape or some kind of performance, that's somewhere like that's, whatever. And so I was like, what do I do? Yeah. So this was kind of where I started thinking about, finding my voice as a filmmaker, where I wanted to take these experiences that I wanted to share. And, I remember graduating high school, getting my high school degree, whatever, and then just that kind of being the end of it. Yep. And it was like, go figure it out. Yeah. And I remember how daunting and how scary that felt. So I was like, all right, I wanna focus on that. Like that's something real, that's something people can relate to. So I did this thing where I got a full white white shoes, white pants, the cap, the whole thing. And I wrote like a poem or something like that. Okay. And I made a video where my friends took black paint and just dumped it on me. So it was like, I like ruined this whole thing where it was like, you like think about high school. It's like, you work so hard to get here to graduate high school. And then they're just like, all right, good luck. And that's what it was called. Yeah, it was called Good Luck. And that was the first, and that was the first thing that I made that I was like, whoa, like I didn't really go in with a plan. I was just like, this is kind of a class assignment. And it was one of the first things that, my freshman year roommate was like, he was like, this is what a LUT is. Like you can put this on, and this is how you start color grading. So it was my first kind of introduction into like, the look of film, like the look of, how color looks, how color grading works. And that I felt like launched me into a world where I was like, okay, maybe this is something that I could be good at. Maybe this is something that, you know, I can understand. Maybe this is something. And, you know, I took that to my film 100 and I was like, I have to prove myself. I have to prove to myself, to like the people who are paying for me to be here, that I can do something incredible. And I worked so hard that I put myself in the hospital.
Really?
Just because from overdoing, I had 160 shots in a film 100 project. I knew nothing about anything. I was just like, I have to make this movie, and it sucked.
160.
I had 160 shots, you know, and it was just one of those things where it was like everything that could go wrong went wrong.
Yeah.
It was, you know, a nightmare. It was like, you know, we had 12-hour days in a film. We're shooting on a DSLR. We didn't even have lights. You know, it was just like, it was a total nightmare. And it was a really kind of scary moment for me.
Yeah.
Thinking like, whoa, can I do this? Like, I just had this high off this one little project where I was like, maybe I can do this. And then it's like, you know, I'm sitting in the hospital, like about to have a heart attack. Wow. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. Like, what do I do now? Go change oil forever? You know, and which
if you
is
change
fine.
oil, if you change oil,
there's nothing wrong with changing oil. Everyone needs it.
Actually, you are making bank, and you probably will continue in the next couple of years.
You're doing just fine. You're doing just fine. I'm not built like that.
You know, I used to work at a Jiffy Lube, and so yeah, I changed oil, and you know, I'm good.
No, I worked at a car wash for 2.5 years. That was my big.
I worked at a car wash for a week and then just didn't show up again.
That's the way to get out. I think it's just
just dip,
just get. Yeah, but so that was a moment in my career where I was really, you know, uncertain of the future and what that looked like. Yeah. You know, because it was something like I wanted it so bad. I was so hungry for this. I was like, I have to make movies. I have to do this. I have stories I want to tell. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do that. And I felt like I failed. And it was one of those things where I was just like, can I do this? Like, really? Like, I had to like sit down with myself and be like, can I do this? Yeah. And, you know, taking a step back from that, I was like, okay, what went wrong? What was I doing? And one, I was trying to do the whole thing by myself. I was producing it, directing it, writing it, you know, coming up with shot design, the whole thing by myself. And I was like, okay, that's probably step one. Is you need a team. You know, step two, it was like, okay, what am I eating? How is my body being like energized? You know, what am I? And I was like, I'm looking at, you know, the SCAD food. I was living on campus at the time, and it was, you know, this is public. I'm not trying to slander anything. This is public. There's investigations, but like the SCAD food is terrible. It's not good for you. Like, it's really bad for you. And, you know, so I was eating that. I think, you know, my first quarter freshman year, I lost 20 pounds because there was nothing. You know, I was eating rice and beans every day because it was the only thing that was edible. So I was like, okay, so I'm not eating well. Yeah. I'm trying to do all this stuff by myself. And it was just kind of that realization where it's like, I can do this. I just can't do it by myself.
Yeah. That's a real moment. Like, especially being that young and understanding that. Because I think a lot of people still try to hit their head, you know, through the wall and break it by themselves, and you just realize you need a team. In that realization, were there people that you reached out to right away because you knew like, oh, like this is someone I trust, or was that part of the challenge?
There has been my group, my freshman year roommates have always been a part in anything that I've done.
Gotcha.
You know, my sweet mate Owen Hollander, he is like he is the movie guy. Okay. He is so incredibly talented. Yep. He has such a great producer mindset. He has just a love for it that he'll beat me out anytime. You know, if anyone wants it more, it's him. Yep. And my roommate Nate, who is in Spain right now, getting his master's, he, you know, would shoot a bunch for me. He's coloring my thesis. Okay. And my other sweet mate JC, you know, they shot a handful of my projects. You know, they shot The Woods, they shot a fashion film, they shot my film 100, you know, just the list goes on and on and on. And then, my friend Jared, who lived across the hall from us freshman year, he's been sound for everything. He's supervising on my thesis.
Yeah.
So it's like we've had that, that tight knit, and like every Tuesday we go to Mellow Mushroom and play trivia together. Every single
cool.
Tuesday since sophomore year. So that's just like we always make time to stay in touch, see when anyone's going on, and then through that everyone made their own kind of connections. So then like that like tight group kind of expanded off into a bigger world. For my thesis, I went with this production company that I've been working with. And these guys, my thesis is something that is, super personal, and I needed it to be handled with kind of this utmost respect, and these guys were professionals.
Let's talk about that. That's the next thing I was probably going to head to. So your thesis, which is, for those who maybe don't know what a thesis is, do you want to explain what that is for the film department?
Yeah. So essentially, you go through all 4 years, and it's kind of this like looming project at the end of your career that, you're thinking about all 4 years, and it's like, like when you're leaving high school, people are like, whoa, what are you going to do after high school? That's what the thesis is. It's like, what are you going to do for your thesis? And some people, I've run into people, they're like, I've been writing this for 8 years. Yeah. This is, and, I wrote my first draft the day before it was due. So there's a very different, approach. Level. Yeah, there's a different approach to it. So it's this big, it's what, to me, what it represents, it's like your time at SCAD, what you've learned, but more what it represents is like, what do you think? Like, what do you think? Because that to me is so much more interesting than like a pretty shot. Don't get me wrong. I love cameras. I love it when things look good. But, the story is what we're all going to the theater to watch. We go to the theater for emotion. We go to feel something. And so I took that and was like, what are the biggest lessons in my life that I've learned this far? Yeah. What are the things that are going to stick with me and make me, the person that I am today? And how can I share that with everybody? So in a beautifully worded wordsmith way, the thesis project is your final project at SCAD. It's what you're going to take out into the world with you.
And so you wrote yours the day before. And
just not great.
Yeah. I know you've talked to me a little bit about it, in our conversations, but I'd love to dive into first off, what is it about? Yeah. What drew you to that topic? Yeah. And what was obviously the process in making it?
So, I'll go back a little bit to give some kind of context around the story. So growing up, I always kind of felt, I don't know, like the odd man out. I was always kind of like, I always felt like the third friend. I always felt very, I don't know, I felt kind of unheard or unseen in a way. And, I wasn't great at school. I didn't like, I didn't love sports. Yeah. I wasn't really doing anything. And 2020, when the pandemic hit, I discovered cars. I got my license the year before. Yeah. It was never something that was really, I never really thought about it. And then, we're trapped inside all day. Yeah. And I had an old 2004 Ford F-150.
Nice.
Old reliable. Nice. Yep. Well, not really, but it was, I think it had 290,000 miles on it when I got it. So it was
was it like through the family vibes or?
Yeah. It was hand me down. Okay, so I was like, it was, it was great. Yeah. And so I just started kind of like messing around with it. There was a tree had fallen on part of there's like a light bar at the top of the truck, and it had cracked that. So I was like, all right. So I went to like a junkyard and found the replacement part, unscrewed it, clipped it all in. I was like, it's pretty fun. And then, I painted the front grille black, and then I painted some other stuff, and I was like, this is really cool. And then I started doing research about like what I could do to it, and I discovered like what a cold air intake is. And I was like, okay, cool. So I, put some money aside, bought one, installed it, and I was like, this is so much fun. Yeah. And it's like, I love working with my hands.
Yep.
You know, like I said, I worked at a car wash, and that's all like service work. That's all,
Yeah.
you know, I'm wiping down the cars, cleaning the inside.
Yeah.
So I love being like physically active in the work that I'm doing. And, you know, it wasn't really until I discovered cars that I felt like I was any good at anything. And it was just something that I just understood. And it was something that just clicked to me in a way that nothing had ever clicked before. Terrible at math. You know, it just nothing ever really made sense the way that cars did. So worked at the car wash, sold the truck, and I bought I thought 2007 BMW 335i, which was the worst mistake.
Was the process of selling the truck like sad or no?
It was.
Were you ready to get rid of it or?
It was sad. It was sad because it was my first car.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, it was sad because it was my first car and it had been in the family for a while. But it was so exciting that like I did it. Like I sold a car.
Yeah.
You know, it was just like, it was one of those things where I was like, whoa, like, okay, I'm doing something that no one else is doing right now.
Yeah.
This is really interesting. I'm having a lot of fun doing this. You know, so I bought that car and I bought the BMW and immediately just started to break. Early 2000s or mid 2000s BMW. It's just, everything's made of plastic. It was, but I will say it made me so good at working on cars. Because everything would break all the time. And I didn't have the money to take it to a shop. You know, I remember when I bought it, there's this place in Asheville called Joyner BMW that I took it to, and they like did a once over on it. And it was like, $100 just from the look at it. I was sitting there just, you know, on online class, sitting in downtown Asheville, just like praying that I was like, oh my God, please don't find anything too bad. And so, you know, just stuff just started breaking. It just started falling apart. And, you know, it was the only car I had. I was like, how am I going to get to work to fix it?
Yeah.
You know, it's got to make it to work. So I would just fix it. And then every single time something would break, it would be deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper in the engine. And it would, you know, I was taking skills that I had learned from, you know, one job and moving them over to another job. And, you know, I got to a point where I had to replace the turbos on it. And that was like the whole side of the engine has to come off.
Dang, yeah.
So that was, you know, it was in the dead of winter. You know, I just got my wisdom teeth taken out too. So it's like I'm lying there, my mouth is all swollen, just, you know, like,
It's got gauze in.
it's horrible. But so, you know, it was stuff like that where, you know, the lesson I took away from that is that I know that I can do anything as long as I set my mind to it.
Yep.
You know, and that was the most valuable thing. And that is something that I've taken into my life. It was because like I knew nothing about this. I didn't know a single thing about it, but I wanted it. Yeah. So I learned everything I could about it.
That's interesting that you say that. Like, I think of like a podcast like this or like live streaming for me. I feel like that's my version of cars because it was like no one's ever done it. It's something that makes me unique in whatever way. Whether I also kind of suffered from like the third wheel, you know, pandemic or whatever you want to call that. But it was something where it's like, yeah, I want to get better at this. So you just keep learning. And eventually you get to a point where you're like, okay, like I feel pretty good about this. Yeah. Now, how can I make it even more like, you know, whatever to that next level?
Exactly. Yeah. And so that was something that just stuck with me, you know, to this day still sticks with me. And, you know, through that love of cars, that, you know, whatever, I was able to meet some of the most amazing people in my life.
Gotcha.
You know, these people who have shaped who I am today have been, you know, like literally people who like I have no idea what my life would look like without their impact in it.
And these people are people that also worked on cars or that you met in like the area kind of thing?
No, these are people that worked on cars. You know, one of my best friends, Abe, I remember the first time I met him, I was at it was some house party. Okay. And he had this 1.9 diesel Jetta. Okay. And you know, he you know, saw my truck and was like, you know, nice truck, man. Then we just kind of started talking about it. Yeah. And then I sold that, got the 335i, and he was like, you know, one day he was like, dude, you should come to this car meet. Like they're having a car meet, you should come hang out. And I was like, I've never been. Okay. So then, you know, I go and then we start hanging out, and you know, I remember like he got the muffler cut off it, so it was just like the loudest.
It's the loudest.
Like, the loudest. Yeah. And it made the craziest noises. And then it's just like, you know, we would talk about like what wheels are we gonna get. It was very like, you know, and I remember those days, just like the bliss of like, I'm gonna go spend this money on this, you know, whatever, you know. And then it just, you know, the projects just got bigger and bigger and bigger. You know, I sold the 335i, bought a 3-valve Mustang and then sold that, and then I was getting deep into the Miatas, and then at that point I was building engines.
Yeah.
I was taking the broken engines, putting them back together, doing the whole thing, and then it was like, okay, like how do you build an engine? Like what, like what rod bearings?
Yep.
Like what do I like? What's the oil pressure going to be? Like what oil am I going to run in this? Like all these other things where it was just like, dude, I just painted the grill black.
You saying that just gives me anxiety of like, oh God, I hope my car doesn't go down sometime.
I mean, and it's that's another thing about cars too that I love so much. It's like there are so many tiny little pieces that all have to work in such a harmony to move a vehicle down the road, and it's just like, you get in it, you turn on, you drive it, and you just don't even think about it.
No, exactly.
You don't even think about it, and it's like, there's the precision machinery on like a Kia Soul is, unheard of 100 years ago.
Yeah.
It's like, it's so, and I'm totally nerding out right now, but it's like, it's so fascinating how cars work. And I wanted to know everything.
Well, I think like that's the one thing too, is like, I didn't grow up with like very much like my dad was building houses or like fixing our house and stuff. So I'm comfortable with that. But engines was something that we never really did. Or for him, he was like, you know what? I got other stuff I got to do.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take it to a small engine guy and then get that fixed,
Yeah.
But when I think I was talking to Eric about this, like, it was the first time I ever like worked on like something that was gear orientated was my bike. And just in the sense of like my brakes weren't working. And it was like, God damn, like this bike's not going to work. It's going to cost too much. But I had a buddy who was like, well, no, let's just take it apart. And just see how you take it apart and put it back together. It's like, well, I can only imagine like, it's kind of the same thing with a car, except it's bigger, that whole thing.
Yeah. Well, and the thing about it too, it's like, it really is, there's a real difference between like the creative field, like what we're in right now versus that, because, cars are kind of like math in a way where it's like, you do this, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So there's obviously some guesswork, involved, and you have to, problem solving is the creative part, especially, if you're stranded. But this plus this is going to equal this.
Yeah.
So understanding how that, works in a car, and then how that can relate to all cars is, half the battle of it. And then just having such an understanding of it where it's like, then you can fix it if something goes wrong. Like I remember I used to be big into drifting. That was like, that was the thing.
Yep.
And I built an engine for my drift car, and to do that, to like break it in, you have to drive 500 miles, and I built this thing in my basement. Like this was not, no shot. It's like a gravel driveway. I had to take it apart to get it out to the car and then put it together, and, mile like 300, I'm up on the parkway and something gives out. I heard a noise from the front. I lift the hood, and like the alternator is just hang loose. I didn't tighten it, so it's my fault. But so I'm like, all right, well, I'm 300 miles from home. I have a box of tools, time to figure this out, or we're not getting home. So there's that element too of it, is like, how scrappy can you be?
Your back's against the wall.
Exactly.
What are you going to do?
So big, long story short, circle back. I'd met all these people, Abe, August, Lucas, Alec, all these people in the car scene that, we would do it all. It was like work on each other's cars, goes to meets, goes, to whatever. Like I remember we watched a movie over at Alec's house, and it was just, it felt, not to get off fast and free, but like, it felt like family. It felt like family. It felt like, it was seriously these are my guys. So I felt seen. I felt understood. I felt, like I could, I didn't feel crazy for like, spending as much money as I have on cars and, the whole thing. And I think I've had 12 cars at this point, just like buying and selling, flipping, and, that really like, that was the thing that I was like, I'm good at this. No one understands this the way that I do. This is something unique that I have to offer and can understand. So having that be a part of my thesis, like I was talking about, you know, for me, it was like, what are some of the biggest things that I've learned in my life so far? And, you know, cars, I wouldn't be who I am without cars, without it. So that was a really big part of it for me. And so in, you know, moving to college, moving away, tough, you know, kind of having to leave all that, leave the project car at home, and then like leave all my friends, you know, at home behind was a really, you know, difficult thing to do, especially in the first quarter. It's like, it's a whole new world. You know, I'm not great at making friends, you know, so it was like, it's one of those things where, you know, I've built this amazing community with the stuff I love to do, but now it's like, all right, I have to just give rid of it all. Give that all to go chase a dream that, you know, end of my freshman year, I'm like, what am I doing? Like, you know, so it, you know, so I, you know, that was a really difficult part was, you know, experiencing, you know, a new world, a new kind of thing. And then in September of 2024, Hurricane Helene happened here. You know, we got here in Savannah, we didn't get hit crazy. I think like a building fell, a lot of trees fell down. Were you here for that? Were you
no,
here?
because
okay.
I would have been this fall of 2025.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, here in Savannah, we got a lot of winds, a lot of trees. Like one of the buildings downtown fell. The night of Helene, I was playing video games with my friend Abe back home. You know, we're just talking, and then I hear like air raid sirens. You know, this is something that was like, okay, you know, it's a hurricane, whatever. And we'd had a hurricane warning every single year. Yeah. You know, it rained for 20 minutes my freshman year when we had a hurricane, you know, and then the same thing happened next year, or it just didn't even rain. You know, it was like,
I don't think we've had one this year. Maybe it was like the first week of first quarter.
We had I was paying attention to it. We had there was one that was going to come, but then it just turned. Okay. Yeah. So, you know, hearing, you know, and I had been joking around about it. I was like, we're supposed to have a hurricane. It's raining, you know, and then I hear those air raid sirens and I was like,
damn, I didn't
get out. Spooky. No. I was like, that's a little. So I was like, all right, like, you know, I got off the game. I was like, all right, I'm going to go like pack a go bag. Yeah. Just in case, you know, so I pack a go bag. And I'm like, all right, well, I've got the bag, you know, I'm going to go to sleep, see what happens. You know, mom had called me the night before and was like, call me in the morning. Yeah. You know, like y'all are supposed to get hit, you know, this is what living down, you know, in the hurricane belt's like. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. I'll, you know, whatever, mom, you know, like didn't think anything about it. I remember 3:00 in the morning, the window in my apartment gets ripped up and I look outside and the rain is sideways. There is a tornado off in the distance.
Are you in your own apartment? I'm in my own apartment. With SCAD? Are you in SCAD buildings?
No, I'm off campus. So this is just me.
Yeah.
And I look over the other way and I see the power grid explode. Like Aurora Borealis type of, and I am like, oh my God. So I'm freaking out. I'm like, all right, I have to get my bag, get the whole thing on. And I'm like, I can't go outside. Yeah. I can't like get to the basement of my apartment. So I take the cushions off my couch and sleep terribly in like, you know, boots, like combat boots and like the whole, like, you know, whatever. I sleep horribly. I wake up in the morning and look outside and I'm like, oh my God, like what has happened? So I get in my truck and I'm driving around. I'm looking at all the, you know, the trees are down. The Spanish moss there was probably like a foot of Spanish moss on the ground. You're just wading through it. So I was like, all right, well, how can I be helpful? What can I go do? So I go to Home Depot. I buy a axe, like a hand axe and a saw. Yeah. So like I'm just, you know, call my mom. Nothing goes through. I'm like, all right, look outside, you know, try and give my dad a call. Nothing goes through. I'm like, all right, you know, whatever, you know. I am walking around. I find this tree, this like big tree that has fallen on this guy's house. And I was like, I'm just going to clear it. I don't have, you know, I'm just going to help this guy out. I'm just going to clear it. And then I get a call from my mom's boyfriend and he's like, Asheville is gone. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, have you seen the news? I was like, no, we don't have any power. He was like, I can't get a hold of your mom. I can't get a hold of your dad. The whole town is gone. And, you know, at that moment, I kind of zoomed out in a way where I was like, this is real. This is real, and it's so unknown. Like, this is nothing that I've, could ever.
You can't be prepared for it.
And, I remember just there, and I had that axe, and I was just like, if I stop, I'm only going to think about it.
Yeah.
If I'm not doing something that's going to, be a physical release of it, I'm going to sit with it, and I'm going to freak out about it. So, I'm calling everybody. Everything's dead. Nothing's dropping, so I'm sitting there, this guy comes out and gives me a water, and, I'm just sitting there just like, it was fall. So it was, probably 95 degrees outside.
Damn.
No power, no water. I go back home, can't take a shower. I'm sitting, like, literally I'm sitting in my underwear, eating Spam.
Yeah.
On the couch with a candle lit, and I'm just like, oh my God, like, everybody is dead. Like, everyone that I've ever known, can't get a hold. Days go by, service starts picking up.
Yep.
I get a call from my dad. I was like, oh my God, thank God. He's like, I'm on the side of 26. This is the only spot that has service. This is the only place that has any service. And so, he's like, there's 600 people in this one spot parked. And he was like, it's bad. He's like, I won't lie to you. Like, it's bad. I've been out, clearing, just trying to get the roads out. There's like cattle that is just, dead on the side of the road, just like crushed by, and I was like, can you please go check on Mom? My dad lives in Black Mountain. My mom lives in Asheville. And he was like, I'll try and get over there. I don't know if I can get over there. So he tries to go over there, can't get over there. My mom's boyfriend is, he's trying to get there too, but like the bridges are gone. There's a big river that kind of connects Asheville to, and it was just gone, just like gone. Wow. And, no one could get in or out. They had, like, the National Guard was flying helicopters in and out to try and get resources to people, to try and get this, that, the other. Eventually somebody finds a way to get into Asheville and start, figuring it out. And so eventually I get a hold of my mom. She's okay. Yeah. And, she's like, I need to go, like, I need to get to my parents. My grandparents live in Asheville as well. I need to get to my parents. She goes to my grandparents' house. Their house is gone. Gone. Just like oak tree after oak tree after oak tree has fallen on it. It's gone. She's like, all right, well, where are my parents? She goes, they live in a nursing home. So she goes and she's like, where are Jan and David Garver? They find her, they reconnect, and it was one of those things where the tree fell on their bed. My grandma had gotten up to go to the bathroom when the tree fell. So it fell right next to my grandma. So if she hadn't gone to the bathroom, she would have been dead. And hearing that, and then also like sitting in class. Like, I remember going to class after all of this had happened and just being like, none
of this matters.
Oh my God.
In a way.
This, it shell shocked me, like, to my core. And I remember, like, back to that night where I couldn't get a hold of everyone, that was the most scared I have ever been in my entire life. Up until that moment, if you would ask me what my biggest fear was, I couldn't tell you. I'd have no idea. I'm like, I'm not scared of anything.
My biggest fear would be working under cars doing oil changes. No.
For the rest of my life. Yeah. No, and it would have been. And it wasn't until that moment, because it was something that was so far out of my control. Yeah. That it was, it was just one of these, like, you can't start working out or like take a pill to, it's like, it's, whatever's going to happen is going to happen, and you're going to be along for the ride. And, I remember having a moment in my apartment by myself where I just lost it. Like, I've never had a moment like that where I felt so weak, I guess. And it was such a powerful feeling, that I just didn't know how to handle it. I just did not know how to handle it. And it was just like, this raw, just emotion, I guess, that just, and I think the longest it took me to hear back from someone was 2 weeks, so it was up to that 2 week period where, you know, I still didn't know if my friends were alive, you know, or if my friends were dead, or, you know, loved ones, family that, you know, what, you know. And so I remember coming back to Asheville after the hurricane, you know, leaving, thinking nothing of it, you know, whatever, it's Asheville, it'll be there when I get back. And then returning, and just like every single place, you know, that I grew up at, you know, all these places, you know, my friends, you know, like just gone, just gone. I mean, you know, there's this place called Chimney Rock where we would go when I was younger. We would do like that gem mining thing, like, you know, like where you get like those big buckets, you would gem mine. And there was this one place where they made like the best peanut butter and jelly sandwiches with like cut, like crust off, cut diagonally, and, you know, and that entire town is gone, you know. And it's, you know, it's just, it's one of those things that just like that, the hurricane changed everything. It changed everything. And, you know, after kind of the dust settled and people were able to like take a deep breath, you know, the community of Asheville came together to make sure that everyone was okay. You know, politics dropped, you know, biases dropped, everything dropped. It was just like, are you okay? Are is your family okay? What can I do to make sure that you're okay? And do you have food? Do you have water? And it was just like that is what community is. And like, I'm so proud of my community back home in Asheville because they just did it. You know, it's just, they did it. My friend Nathan, his dad had been building their house, you know, and they had just finished. He had spent 20 years on that house. Gone, just gone. And, you know, his dad's like, I'm going to spend the next 30 years of my life building this house, you know, and he's 60 or 70, you know, and like his, you know, his whole family had been there, and all of my friends were like, just showed up, scooping dirt out of the house, getting all this stuff. And, you know, it was just like horror story after horror story where it's like, you know, the mud was toxic because the PVC pipe plant, you know, and it's just like everyone was getting rashes and burns. And it was, you know, it's an indescribable thing unless you experience it. And, you know, it was like, I was the same way. You know, I scroll on my phone and I scroll past, you know, or I would scroll past, you know, natural disaster, you know, like just anything. And I'd be like,
I think of like wars too.
Yeah.
Like, we are fortunate because we are American and like we spend a lot of money.
Yeah.
So that wars aren't here. They're elsewhere.
Yeah.
And so I think we can lose that then and be like, well, then why are we spending money on this war? It's like, well, because we don't want it in our backyard.
Yeah.
Because that is the, like, I don't want a missile in my backyard. Just like I don't want a hurricane in my backyard. You know, and I think our society can kind of be backwards sometimes in that way of just like there are reasons we do some things.
Yeah.
And we can be blind to not realizing it.
Yeah.
But just that experience of like something that's so like you said, you don't know what it is until you live through it. Like I can only imagine what a Katrina was like, you know, that whole thing too.
Well, and the thing about it too, it's that like, it's so, you know, we're so kind of just blind to everything, you know, because we can't relate to it. And that's why empathy is so important. You know, empathy is the most important thing that we can give to somebody, you know, is because like when we can't understand what they're experiencing, you know, we have to try and be in their shoes. We have to try and understand even when it's something we can't, you know. And so, you know, having my eyes opened by that event, you know, scrolling past all this stuff that I would just be like, whatever, you know, like a tsunami, an earthquake, you know, any kind of natural disaster or something. It's like, now I can be like, you know, that's not, you know, you see the event happen, you scroll past it and then you're done. But it's, you know, like, you know, Asheville's still getting put back together. You know, there is, you know, Helene, the estimate Helene damage is $60 billion. You know, 30% of that has been funded, and, you know, North Carolina has requested 19 billion and haven't seen any of that. You know, and so the government is the local government is going to front it and hope for reimbursement. You know, and then it's like we're spending, you know, $1 billion a day in a war that no one wants to be in, you know. So that's why, like, I'm so proud of my community back home because they just did it. You know, it didn't matter who, you know, my dad told me there's this bar that him and his friends own, and they would just like, they were like, everything's free. We're going to cook up all this food because it's going to go bad. Take it to your family, do this, do that. What do you want? What are you allergic to? This whole thing. And it was like, it brought everyone so much closer together. It really brought everyone closer together. And it's like, that's the silver lining in an event like this, where it's like, it brings you home. It brings you back to these people. It brings you to this connection that's so important in life. It's like human connection is the most important thing that we can do. And, you know, having like lived through something like this, seeing my hometown, you know, destroyed, and then having it be rebuilt in a way of like love and compassion and community and neighbor helping neighbor is, you know, it's a story that, you know, I feel like I owe it to my town to tell. I owe it to the people who lost their lives. I owe it to the people whose families were, you know, devastated by this hurricane, because, you know, in the long run, it's like, I got out of it okay. Yeah. You know, my grandparents lost their house. You know, my friends, their houses were damaged, you know, but, you know, everyone that I, you know and love is okay.
And so you lost the material thing, but you didn't lose the human, right?
I didn't lose the human thing.
And that's the thing, is like, like, my mom was always like, maybe when we grew up, she'd be like mad if we broke something, but then she was like, well, you know, like you can always buy another whatever. Like, she'd always get a rooster, and my brother and I would be playing football and break the rooster, right? Yeah. And so it's like, so she'd be mad at us, but then she's like, you know what, like, you can always get this, but I can't, like, if I lose you or something like that, I can't get that back. Yeah. You know,
and it's just like, you know, it's like, and then like everything changed, you know, people moved away, but, you know, it's like at the core of it, you know, it's like Asheville is different, and it's going to be different forever. You know, that was one of those things that has changed it forever. But, you know, I choose to look back on it not as like the horrific event that it was, but this, you know, like when your back's up against the wall, you can count on your neighbors. Yeah. You know, and so, you know, I was really moved what happened, and it really affected me for a really long time. And I was trying to figure out, like, what can I do to see it in this light? Like, what can I do to see it in this light? So this is, you know, where my thesis comes from. Yep. So, you know, my story revolves around a pair of friends, Jack and Danny, who fix up cars together. And, you know, kind of how that relationship changes over time, and, you know, with the introduction of, you know, events, hurricane, you know, that. Yeah. So it's a super personal film to me. It's a really, really, really personal, really personal to me, to the crew, to, you know, and I did it with a production company that I'd worked with and had grown close to, because, you know, for, you know, one reason was that I did a documentary on Asheville, like, you know, a couple months after it happened. Okay. And it was, you know, a group here, and there was a person in my group who really didn't respect it and could not empathize with it, and was very kind of vocal about their lack of empathy. And, you know, for something that is so important to me, I was really nervous to take a risk on people that I didn't know, and people that, you know, because I go to the friends here, and, you know, it's like, you know, my old DP's, you know, photography now. My producer is, you know, busy with other stuff. So I was like, I need this so I take it to these guys. They read the script, and they're like, I have to make this. You know, they read the script and were like, I have to be a part of it. And, you know, the lesson that I had thought, that I was always trying to be taught throughout life, is that, like, you need people, which is true, but there's a deeper part to it, where it's like, you need people that see you and people that you can trust. Yeah. You know, the people is not enough for something that's personal and something that you care about. People is not enough. These people that are in your life and that are meant to be in your life have to have your back. You know, so taking that lesson to this film and being, you know, having that in mind as I'm picking people to be on it, casting,
Yep.
you know, this whole thing where it was like, how do you relate to this, and are you going to care about it? You know, I've been on so many sets where, you know, there's people that are so busy, and like as you should be, you know, you're at film school, you should be busy, but you know, they would talk about the set they have tomorrow or the stuff when it's like, man, we're doing this now.
I need you here.
I need you here right now. You know, and I just like, that couldn't happen on this because of the content of it, because, you know, and so having the support of these guys, this production company, I felt seen. I felt seen in such a way that it was like what I'd been searching for. You know, like it reminded me when I first got into cars. Like it was like, you know, I felt seen in such a way where it was like, it made me be a better director. It made me be, you know, want it more, you know, more than I already did. And, you know, you just had Eric on, and I talked to you a little bit about this at the party where, you know, the thing, first of all, Eric, incredible. Incredible.
I'm waiting for my chance to get to act with him, because I've got to spend a lot of time with him, but we haven't had there was one chance, and he was like, I don't know if I want that project, and that was the project I would have been the counter to him, and I was like, no. And he was like, damn it, had I known.
Incredible actor, but what sold him is that he drove an hour to sit down and have a cup of coffee with me and talk about the project, you know, and we spent the whole conversation getting to know each other. We hardly even touched on the project, but just getting to know each other. And, you know, why it was important to him. And he was like, you know, I have friends in Asheville who were affected by this. I'm really close in Greenville. You know, this is something that's really personal to me. And I was just like, this is my guy. This is my guy. Because he's proved to me that he cares. And that this is not, you know, he's not going to be on his phone or, you know, like I got set, you know, whatever, you know. He proved to me off the bat that that's what he wanted and that he was committed to this. And that's what got him the job. You know, take notes, actors. Take notes. And it's the truth. You know, and I will, because, you know, as like an acting standpoint, it's like no one's going to love this project more than the director does. You know, the writer director or the director or whoever's spearheading this project, showing that you care. And, you know, you don't have to care as much as the director. You should. But, you know, that showing that level of like, I want this, I care about this, will get you the job. It will get you the job. And that was the same thing with Danny's co-lead, John, who I found on Backstage. You know, and I just got talking to him, and he was exactly what I needed, and he could relate to the film. And that had been the thing I had struggled with for so long, and like why I had been wanting to tell this story for so long is trying to get people to understand what it felt like, what it was like to, you know, go to bed at night and just wake up to everything being different, you know, and they just got it. And that is what great act. I mean, John was incredible. He was perfect. And, you know, that was like the cherry on top. You know, just having sat down with these guys and talked about it, I was like, I don't even care if they can act or not. These are my guys. You know, these are my guys. Because I knew that they would bring it. And if they couldn't act, which they could incredibly, you know, I knew that they would bring it. And I knew that they wouldn't slack off. And I knew that John had a cold while we were shooting. He was like, I don't care. I'm going to be here. I'm going to do this. I want to do this. And that was the same thing with everyone who was on the crew. They were, you know, it snowed the day we started shooting. It was 9 degrees outside. Dang. It was 9 degrees outside in North Carolina when we were shooting. And no complaints. Showed up. We're going to do it. It's going to be great. And I was just it was such a great experience for me because I felt so seen by everyone. I got to work with people who I love working with. And it was just, you know, it was an indescribable feeling. Like I have a video of me. I don't know if I'm going to post it anywhere, but it's like, it's me driving to set, just like, I'm so grateful. Just like bawling my eyes out. Cause I was just like, I am so grateful that this is what I'm doing. I have such an incredible opportunity to tell stories, to make film, to do this. And like, this is, you know, I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky to be here. I'm so lucky for everything that has happened to me. I'm so lucky to be doing this right now. And I'm, you know, so grateful that everyone who was on that project is on that project. You know, like, not to keep rambling about how awesome this project is, but, you know, Jared, my post-sound supervisor, he assembled a phenomenal sound team. And each one of these guys, you know, has ties to North Carolina, and they're like, we get it, man, we get it, you know. And just everyone who has touched this project from beginning, middle to almost the end of it, you know, cares about it in a way that it, like, none of my projects have been cared about before. And it's just it was such a, you know, learning experience for me that it was like, you know, you need people. You do, but you really need people who care. Yeah. You really need people who are going to stick with it, put as much into it as you're going to put into it, you know, who understand that you're hungry for this, that, you know, you want this so bad. You know, and it was just one of those things where I was just like, I don't care. I'm going to make this. I don't, you know, I in my senior 1 class, you know, we read the first draft of the script and like 4 people liked it. You know, no one really liked it. And I was like, I don't care.
Then it's not for you.
It's not for you.
And I think too, like when you create art, you have to realize, is it for you or is it for an audience? Yeah. And I think we can sometimes get caught up in like, it's for an audience. You know, I think like it's pretty prevalent sometimes as we look at films that are coming out today. It's like, oh, this is targeting an audience, not the story. But I mean, everything leading up to this, like everything you've shared before, it's like, I feel like has been leading you to this moment. Yeah. To create this final film, you know, with your career here at SCAD, you know.
And that's why the thesis is so important for me. It's because it's like, it's a showcase of, you know, what I've learned, what I've done, you know, but also like what I've learned, not at school, but just like life. Yeah. Like about life, you know, like what it means to, you know, to move on, what it means to, you know, have the darkest day of your entire life be shown in a light that, you know, proves to not just myself, but to an audience that, like, you know, it's going to be okay. Yeah. You know, things are going to happen that are out of your control. And it's like, what do you do with that? You know, what do I do with, you know, this thing that happened? Do I just sit and let it fester, you know, in my body forever, you know, another heart attack in the hospital? Or do I, you know, take my skills, the things that I've learned, and give it back to my community in a way that is like a release, you know, of it. You know, and that's why this project is so important. Yeah. That's why this project is so important, you know, and everyone is the same way, you know, to get into like, so we can we can deep breath from the trauma of the film, you know, and get into like the fun parts of it. You know, my sound team, we just recorded car movie. We just recorded sound effects on the car. Okay. And they are not using anything from a library. No sound library for this film. Yeah. Every single time you hear a car sound, that's them out in the field recording the picture car. Yep. So, you know, we did a setup, and this is witchcraft to me. You know, I've touched the surface.
Seen a couple of videos that you've like posted, or maybe someone has or whatever, and I'm like, that's sick. Or just, you're just like, yep.
So we had one setup where we had a lavalier mic inside the engine. Like, I was able to, like, we put it inside the engine. Sheesh. We put it inside the engine. We had another one in the engine bay just for, like, the ambient. Yep. We had 2 lavs in the ceiling to get, like, the rattle of the car. Yep. We had a mic in the trunk in the wheel well to get that, you know. And then we had oh my gosh, what is it called? It was a seismograph or, like, a seismophone or something like that. But it was, like, it gets the vibrational sound attached to the chassis of the car. And so we have all this sound in one take that's going to be fully immersive. Yeah. So when you're sitting in a theater, you're going to feel like you're sitting in the car, you know, with these guys as they're driving it. You know, and they just Dover, they're like, this is the most, like, this is what sound designers want to do. We're having so much
Everyone's
fun.
geeking out. Yep.
Everyone was, and it was just like, it just like comes back to that thing where it's like, these guys care,
Yep.
and I can see that they care. And then the product is going to be so much more because everybody cared.
Yeah.
And it was so fun working with Eric because he's a car guy.
Yeah.
He was able to understand I didn't have to teach him how to work on cars for this, and same thing with John. It was, John's like, I've been, changing oil, and he was like, I've been changing oil and doing brakes for a little while. It's like, yeah, I know how to do it. So, it's like these guys have been around cars, and I just can't get over how much everyone cared and how much it shows in the film.
Yeah.
This is by far the best thing I've ever done. This by far. And best thing I've ever done. And it's because of the fantastic team that I worked with.
Do you know, are you sending this to the circuit for film festivals and stuff like that?
We're going to do a festival run. We haven't done our strategy yet, but it will be at Showcase, which will kind of be the first time it's seen.
Are you able to release the name and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. Okay. So it's called The Drive.
Yep.
It's called The Drive. It's about, it's about life. It's a coming of age story, essentially, about these two guys who work on cars together. And so, that will do a festival circuit. Haven't pick the festivals, pick the details out. We're one cut away from picture lock.
Is this a short film or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is a short film. It's about 15 minutes.
Okay. So it's gonna be the next Whiplash film.
Yeah.
Sorry, Eric. No, I'm just kidding.
No. I would fight tooth and nail. They literally are perfect for these roles. They are these characters, and that was. It was really, really interesting watching, having written this from my own personal experience, because I guess in some ways, I definitely see myself in both of these characters, but, in many ways, Eric was playing me.
Gotcha.
Which was really interesting to see because, it's like watching yourself in a mirror, but through a different lens, because it was his interpretation of what I've written and just with my, very light
taps,
directions. Yeah. Because, the most valuable thing about it, I keep talking about the team, but it's collaboration. I have the script that I've written, I have the source material, but it's not powerful until other people put their emphasis into it. And that's what I told Eric. I was like, look, I'm just gonna tap you here, but you are a talented actor. I want you to bring this character to life through how you would do it. And there was one moment on set where I talked about that heavy emotional moment that I had after the hurricane happened, where that had been written into the script. And I remember right before rolling, I was like, man, this guy's good. How is this going to make me feel? How am I about to feel? And it was so powerful for everybody that we sent him inside and we were we had to take 10 and just stand around and cry. Cause it was so real to me. Seeing my action played out in this way was so real. And then everyone else who was in that room, these guys they're like promos and sports and we did a TNT shoot for the WNBA over winter, and this is we're getting shots of basketball and this, they're not cinematographers. And Eric just did such an incredible job that it brought a room of grown men to tears, and we had to stop. I had to go hug my mom. It was it was so powerful. And that is why the film is what it is because Eric brought such energy and life to this character that was just on a piece of paper. And John brought such emotion and such you love him just immediately. You just love him, and he did that because he's talented. they brought so much energy and life to these characters, and you know, the cam and light team brought so much elegance to the picture. You know, and all these things coming together. You know, I remember being on set, you know, when we first start rolling and just kind of seeing how it all went, seeing these guys like interact with each other, and I was like, we got something. You know, there's times on projects.
There's nothing that gets better than that feeling. You know, when you're like, all right, we got one.
We got something. No, because I'll be on set sometimes, you know, and if it's like either it's something that, you know, I'm directing or like, you know, someone else I'm working on, and I'll just be like, oh boy. Or it's like,
this editing team is good.
I know. It's one of those things where it's like I'll be in something and it's just like, you know, people are tired, people aren't really in it. So it's like, man, like we're gonna have to save this, but that was not the case here, you know, and that, you know, that experience gave me so much of a boost. Yeah. You know, from like, if we take it all the way back to my freshman year where it was like, you know, can I do this? Yes, I can. Yeah. You know, that was the proof.
So where are people able to, you said this is part of the showcase, right? Yeah. So when is that showcase date-wise and time-wise? Is that something people can go see, or no, is it closed off?
No. Okay. So that's something that people can go see. That is, oh man. I'm not sure of the actual date. It's like end of May. Okay. End of May. At the Lucas Theater.
So if you're a SCAD student, keep an eye on the emails. They're going to be sending them out.
Oh, yeah. They'll be sending them out. We've been manifesting Thursday, 8 p.m. as our time slot. Okay. That's like our running joke. We're like, we got to get Thursday, 8 p.m. Okay. That's our thing. You know, and it's something that it was just one of those things that I just wanted to make it. Yeah. You know, it was like, I didn't want this to go anywhere. I didn't really, you know, I was like, this is something that's important to me. This is something that's important to my friends back home, to my community back home. You know, I'm doing this for me. Yeah. I was like, we had people read scripts in class, and everyone was like, all right, next. You know, I was like, that's fine. You know, this is for me. Cause I'd spent that summer writing a script that I was like, all right, this is it. You know, and then I remember reading it like right before it was due. And I was like, this is not me. This isn't me. You know, this is like, I'm once again making a project for someone else.
Yeah, for someone else.
For someone else. That's not me. And so I just threw it away. I was like, we're going to start over the day before. You know, and I just like, what's the most important thing? You know what? And then the drive was born. Wow. And people attach themselves to it. And it's just, you know, from the beginning. I read the first draft the other day. I read the first draft and I was like, wow, this has come a long way. This has come a long way. But yeah, it's just, you know, it was such a great experience. And I got to work with incredible people, you know, Eric, John, Greg, Sam, you know, Chip, Corey, just everyone, you know, made this film. You know, my mom produced it. You know, she'd been wanting to get into the film world. And I was like, produce my thesis. And she crushed it. She crushed it.
That's so cool.
You know, so it was like, you know, not only was it like a personal thing, but it was like a family thing. Yeah. It just, it was an indescribable feeling to make art, you know, with my mom, you know, with everyone in that space who cared about it so much. And it's like, you know, we had hiccups, but, you know, we made a great film. We made a really great film. And if it, you know, does a festival circuit and flops everywhere, I don't care. Yeah. Because I made a great film and I'm super proud of it. And I got to share the experience of making the film with all the people that were on set, sharing the post side with my sound guys, my colorist, you know, that whole group. And then, you know, to share it to people, you know, it's a great way for me to tell my story, to tell the story of Asheville, to tell the story of my friends, my family, and strangers who I don't even know who were affected, you know, because everybody has a story. But yeah, that's you know, whew,
I mean, I think that's like important for people to hear though. Like, there are stories that are being shared that are not always a superhero film. It's real, and I think I talked to this a lot about. I feel like there is a pull, especially with our generation or whatever that is, of just like, I want something real. Like, you know, I grew up with superheroes and that's awesome. That's fun. It's always entertaining, but it's like, at some point I want to see someone on the screen that's just like me. Yeah. Or that has gone through something just like me. Yeah. And like The Drive seems very much like that's a story that I can relate to, or that human maybe the hurricane being a part of the story isn't something I've experienced.
Yeah.
But all the other struggles that human has,
Yeah,
I relate to that.
Well, everybody can relate to, leaving a place, leaving somewhere for an unknown, and then, having something that happens out of your control.
Yeah.
People can relate to, even if people have never lost, a friend or anything like that, like people can relate to loss. This character of Jack, is a personification of Asheville. It's like people can, you can relate to loss. You can relate to, having, I was talking to Jared, my post-town supervisor, about, he's like, it's like, yeah, I have friends that stayed at home, and I can relate to what it's like, having everything change. Yeah. So it's not, and that's the amazing thing about film too. It's like you have the surface level, you have the story, but then like the layers and layers and layers that, you can just enjoy the story, or you can sit with and be like, wow, this made me feel this. Yep. This is how this happens here, and that's just like the magic of it. And, I'm so grateful to be able to do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cause I'm only going to have 15 minutes to show the film, and I want to talk for hours and hours and hours about it, because of all the work that I've done, all like, every single part of this film came from a real life event, that I lived, all, these decisions, these actions, this stuff, it's all real.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I tell, when I ever interact with like lower, like freshmen, sophomores who are trying to get into film, trying to get on sets, there's a million ways you can do that. How to write a good story, or how to, make a film that you can be super proud of. And, working hard is part of that, for sure. Yep. Being on set, learning how that goes. But the other half of that is like, you have to live your life, because those stories are not just going to come to you in a dream or in a, you have to live your life. And, no one's going to want to hear a war story from me, because that's something I've never touched before.
Yeah.
There's nothing. There's no way that I can, relate to that.
Yeah.
With empathy, sure, I can definitely do my best.
Yep.
But that's not my story to tell.
No.
That's not something that people are going to be like, wow, Brody's war movie was great. It's never going to happen, because that's not something I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
Living your life and the experiences and the lessons that you are taught through life are the stories that we want to hear. Those are the stories that we want. I am so much more fascinated by a film that was shot on an iPhone with no lighting, that, is real and human, and, than like, a horror movie that looks fantastic and is super, super scary, but it's like, cool. Like, that's not going to make me think. That's not going to make me think about what, how it made me feel. Sure, it made me scared. Maybe that's why you go see a horror movie. It's like, I just want to feel scared. But the films that stick with me are the ones that are so powerful, because they're drawn from real lived experience. Yeah. And that's what I wanted to get out of The Drive, is like, I wanted to be really vulnerable, and I wanted to share something that was incredibly personal to me. It's like, it's when I felt my weakest. It is literally, there is a scene in this film that depicts me at my absolute lowest. And I wanted to share that, because I know that there are so many people who felt that way. Yeah. And it's a way to say that, like, you're not alone, and that's just like, just a tiny bit of why I wanted to share this film. Yep. So I'm really, really excited to share it. I'm so excited to share it. I cannot wait. And, I'm broken record here, but it's like, everyone was so on board. Everyone was on my team. It's like, this film I had a great idea, but the execution of it was everybody else. This film would not have been possible without my sound team, without everyone who was on production, without everyone who gave me notes and feedback on my scripts, without, all the professors who gave me notes on cuts, the professors that pushed me, all this stuff I could not have done it alone. I really couldn't have.
Which comes back to that whole idea of you need people.
You need people.
And you need people who care.
You need people who care. Exactly.
So as you are wrapping up your last quarter here in Savannah, Georgia, are there any projects you're working on right now where you're just kind of wrapping up The Drive.
I'm editing The Drive.
Okay, yep.
So we've got a couple more cuts before picture lock. My picture lock date is Friday, this upcoming Friday. Yep. So we're right there. And then I'm composing the music. I've been a musician for 11 years.
Yeah.
This will be my 5th film I've composed for.
Okay,
so
that's sick.
I cannot wait
Yep.
because like emotions on the music.
Yeah.
God, we need like a 4-hour episode.
We'll come back after it does the circuit and wins everything. I'll come find you,
there you go.
And then we'll put picture up here.
I won't get into it, but music is where the emotion is. So having, how I want people to feel, I can put into a musical. Mm-hmm. So I'm super excited for that. And then the sound guys are getting to work. They're on this cut now, and I was like, "Oh, you guys, are you sure you guys want to start working?" They're like, "We'll conform. We want to start working." Yeah. I was like, "All right, there's gonna be a couple more cuts, just so you know." But it's been really hard, but I've been saying no to a lot of projects just because I want to give this project what it deserves. So, nothing really on the radar, just like, graduating, kind of getting ready for what's next.
Do you have an idea of where you're going to end up post-graduation?
So I really want to go to New York.
Okay, you do want to go to New York.
I do want to go to New York. Yeah. I know I just talked for an hour about The Drive, but I want to make commercials.
Interesting. Okay.
I want to make commercials, and I want to do that as my main career is because as much as I love The Drive and as much as I've just talked it up over the past however long I've been talking about it, I don't feel like I'm in that 1% that's going to make movies. I feel, and that's not a bad thing.
No,
I'm not upset about that. That's not something, I feel like the commercial world is something that I really understand. It's something that I really gravitate to in a way because, you're given, you pitch a job, you go out for a job. You're like, okay, this is why you should hire me. You're probably competing against 3 other directors. You write up a treatment. This is how, and it's basically, it's like, how do I understand your vision? And let me show you that I understand your vision. Pitch that out. Say you win the job. Okay, so then you go sit with the creative director, go through this, go through that, and then you come up with like how I'm going to shoot this, how it's going to look, this, that, the other thing, and then you go shoot it, and then you go edit it, and then you're done. And that happens probably within 3 weeks. Feature films, 10 years, 11 years for like an indie feature film. Yeah, and to sit with something for so long, sitting with The Drive, I'm still like, it's coming to a close, but I could not imagine spending
another 2 years on it,
another 10 years on it, and, that being said, if it got picked up for a feature,
I'll be in that booth editing.
I would do it because it's a story that needs to be told. And a story I owe to my town to tell. But, I am not in that 1% that's going to be a successful Hollywood movie director. And that's totally okay. And it's a good thing that I know that about myself too, is because then I can focus in on what I want. Yeah. It's like, I want to make money. I want to use the skills that I've learned here to make money. Yep. I love the art. Oh my God, I love the art. Yeah. Creating, the whole thing. But, to do that in a way that I want to do that, I couldn't get a studio involved. I couldn't get, so being able to self-fund something with the money I make off commercials or, other kind of ventures or something like that is, in my opinion, the smartest move that I can do because, like we were talking about a little bit, we were talking about the Whiplash short and how like the lead actor, they needed a name. They wanted Miles Teller, and the lead actor for that short that was so good just kind of got kicked out, but if it was something that, this guy funded himself, this was the movie he wanted to make, tell the story that he wanted to tell, you can do that if you're paying for it. It's like, it's the client. So commercial direction is really where I want to end up because it's lucrative in film and it's a quick turnaround. If you do like 6-7 commercials a year, you're good. That being said, finding work is really challenging. Gotcha. Especially starting out. It's not, you do one job and you're like, I hope the next one comes before rent's due. Yeah. And I feel like that's kind of a lot of like the world that, you know, like you and I are in, you know, with acting
Very
and
much.
film. It's like, when is the next job coming?
Yep.
You know, so when things get sticky and I'm changing oil, waiting for the next job to come,
Yep.
you know, I'll be like, okay, you know, I've learned, I know the skill, you know, I can do this. I can wait for the next job to come. I can
Yep.
change oil. I can clean cars.
Yep.
You know, I wouldn't want to go back to a car wash, but it's something
Yeah.
I'm very good at.
Yep.
You know, and it's like kind of like coming full circle back to cars. It's like, I know that I can do anything I put my mind to. You know, I really know that about myself. It's like anything that I feel like I can do, you know, as long as I want it bad enough, I know I could do it, you know?
No, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for giving us your time and
Thank
sharing
you for having me.
sharing
Oh my
your experiences
goodness.
in your film. I think it's just like, it's so powerful, I think, to hear someone's creative mind, but someone who's so into it, tied into it, and loves their product
Yeah.
as much as they want someone else to love it. I think that's like so
No one
awesome
will
to
love
hear
this
about.
as much as
But and it's like, that's a good thing, I think,
Yeah.
in a way, like, because that means it should be good. It's going to be everything that you hope it is.
I know, I
and
hope
all
it's
that.
good, guys.
But-
I hope I didn't just hype it up and everyone's like,
Dude, it's packed.
I'm like,
At that Thursday 8 p.m. slot, it's packed.
Thursday
out.
8 p.m. Comment Thursday 8 p.m.
Yeah. All right, we can take camera too. Well, Brody, thanks so much for coming on the show. I appreciate
Thank you for
having this
having me.
conversation. I think it's so fun that like a 30-minute conversation can turn into something like this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Mike, thanks for always coming and helping out as always.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Having you come back in the studio. And if you made it this far in the episode, consider dropping a like, subscribe to the channel. All that helps the algorithm, all that kind of stuff. So if you've found value here, we'd love to see you again. And so with that, we'll see you next week. Peace.